Watch today's video until the end, because there is information at the end that not everyone knows. And subscribe to the channel now to get such videos regularly. Victor's summons, Billy's plot, and Mariah switches gears. The Young and the Restless spoilers weekly update for February 9th to 13th tease that Victor summons his family to a big meeting. Plus, Billy plots with Phyllis to double-cross Cain, but Victoria busts them. Finally, Mariah is forced to switch gears in the middle of her kidnapping plot. Tune in next week so you can catch all of the action in Genoa City. Elsewhere, Noah, Lucas Adams, and Sienna, Tamara Braun, talked honestly about their future. Their connection remained strong, but the realities of distance, family, and expectations weighed heavily on the conversation. Neither was ready to walk away, yet both understood that wanting each other did not automatically solve what came next. Meanwhile, Mariah, Cameron Grimes, continued to justify her choices involving Dominic, Ethan Ray Allen. Her thinking grew more rigid and emotional, and her plans began drifting into dangerous territory, making it clear that her sense of right and wrong was becoming increasingly distorted. Sharon and Tessa, Kate Fairbanks, struggled to accept the truth about Mariah. Both wanted desperately to believe there was a misunderstanding, but the facts made denial impossible. Their concern focused on Dominic and what Mariah's fragile state of mind could mean for his safety. At the same time, Clare, Haley Aaron, quietly began digging into Audra, Zuleika Silver. What started as casual curiosity sharpened as Clare followed inconsistencies that Audra clearly hoped would remain buried. Each question pushed Clare closer to something Audra did not want exposed. Noah stood his ground with Nick during a tense conversation. While he understood his father's concern, Noah made it clear that he would not be pressured into changing his plans or abandoning his relationship. His resolve signaled a turning point in their dynamic. Victor, Eric Braden, struck back against Cain, Billy Flynn, making it clear he was far from finished. His move was calculated and aggressive, signaling that he was prepared to escalate the conflict to regain control. Nikki, Melody Thomas Scott, worried openly about Lily's safety. With communication limited and answers scarce, her unease deepened as Victor pushed forward with his plan. Elsewhere, Jack, Peter Bergman, and Diane, Susan Walters, allowed themselves a brief moment of celebration after securing a meaningful win. At the same time, Lauren, Tracy E. Bregman, gave Billy, Jason Thompson, an update on Jill's condition, forcing him to confront how much was at stake beyond business battles. Victor urged his family to trust his plan, dismissing their concerns with confidence that everything was under control. His certainty did little to ease the growing tension among those closest to him. Abby, Melissa Ordway, and Devon, Brighton James, sought outside help as their desperation to find Dominic intensified. Fear and urgency shaped every decision as they clung to hope while confronting the worst possibilities. Phyllis, Michelle Stafford, remained firmly in Cain's corner, offering emotional support when he needed it most. Her loyalty gave him strength as the pressure from Victor continued to mount. Victor tightened the screws on Cain, making his expectations unmistakably clear. The confrontation left Cain with little room to maneuver and underscored how far Victor was willing to go. Jack and Kyle, Michael Mealer, made a strategic power move, quietly aligning their interests while chaos unfolded elsewhere. Their actions hinted at longer-term consequences beyond the immediate conflict. Meanwhile, Holden, Nathan Owens, turned to Clare for help with a new assignment that carried more weight than he initially admitted. As they talked, it became clear that getting involved could pull them both deeper into an already volatile situation. YNR Victor's summons, Billy's plot, and Mariah switches gears. The Young and the Restless is quietly loading the chessboard for a power shift, and it starts with a summons no one in Genoa City can ignore. When Victor Newman calls, it's never a courtesy. It's a warning disguised as an invitation, a reminder that the king still believes the board belongs to him. This time, the ripple effects spread fast, pulling Billy Abbott deeper into a dangerous plot and forcing Mariah Copeland to make a decisive internal switch that could change her trajectory for good. These stories aren't running parallel. They're colliding. And when they do, the fallout could redraw alliances that fans thought were locked in place. Victor's summons lands with the weight of inevitability. Whether it's delivered through a clipped phone call, a terse message, or an unexpected appearance, the message is the same: Victor is done waiting. For weeks, he's watched power slip through his fingers in subtle ways. Deals made without him. Decisions taken out of his orbit. Loyalty that feels conditional instead of absolute. Victor doesn't rage against this reality. He corrects it. His summons is not about one mistake or one person. It's about reminding Genoa City that he still decides who rises and who falls. The unsettling part is how calm he is. Calm Victor is far more dangerous than furious Victor because it means the plan is already in motion. Who answers that summons matters. And who hesitates matters even more. Those who arrive quickly are signaling fear or allegiance. Those who stall are testing whether Victor's reach still extends as far as it once did. Victor notices everything. He always has. The meeting itself may look routine on the surface, but underneath, it's a pressure test. Victor is measuring who can still be controlled, who needs to be coerced, and who might need to be eliminated from his inner circle entirely. This is less about business and more about obedience. Billy Abbott, meanwhile, is playing a much riskier game than anyone realizes. On the surface, Billy looks like he always does, impulsive, emotional, fueled by a mix of righteous anger and restless ambition. But beneath that familiar chaos is something sharper. Billy isn't just reacting anymore. He's planning. And that alone should terrify Victor Newman. Billy's plot isn't loud or flashy. It's surgical. He's learned the hard way that charging headfirst into Victor's line of fire only leads to loss. So this time, Billy is stepping sideways. He's gathering information, testing loyalties, and positioning himself where Victor won't expect him. What makes Billy's plot especially dangerous is that it's personal. Victor hasn't just beaten Billy in business. He's humiliated him, dismissed him, and treated him like a child playing at adulthood. Billy's resentment has matured into strategy. He's not trying to destroy Victor outright. He's trying to destabilize him. To expose cracks in the Newman armor that Victor himself refuses to acknowledge. Billy understands that Victor's greatest weakness isn't an enemy. It's his belief that he can control everyone forever. Billy's moves may involve alliances that look unlikely or even reckless. He's willing to work with people who don't fully trust him, because he knows mistrust cuts both ways. In some ways, Billy is becoming a mirror of Victor, and that realization may haunt him more than any threat Victor could make. Billy still wants to believe he's different. But as his plot deepens, the line between justice and vengeance blurs, and once Billy crosses it, there may be no clean way back. Mariah Copeland's story operates on a more intimate level, but its impact may be just as explosive. After everything she's endured, Mariah has reached a quiet breaking point. Trauma has a way of looping, replaying itself until a person either collapses under its weight or learns how to redirect it. Mariah is choosing redirection. She's switching gears, not because she's healed completely, but because she's tired of letting pain dictate her choices. This isn't a sudden transformation. It's a deliberate pivot. Mariah's switch is emotional before it's strategic. She's reevaluating who she listens to, what she internalizes, and how much of herself she gives away. For too long, Mariah has been in survival mode, responding to crises instead of shaping her own path. Now, she's taking back control in small but meaningful ways. She's setting boundaries. She's questioning assumptions. She's allowing herself to want something more than stability. That alone could put her on a collision course with people who prefer her compliant and cautious. What makes Mariah's shift so compelling is that it doesn't come with a grand announcement. There's no dramatic speech or public declaration. It shows up in her choices. In what she refuses to tolerate. In what she finally allows herself to hope for. And hope, in Genoa City, is dangerous. Because hope invites risk. It invites confrontation. And it invites change. These three threads begin to intertwine in subtle but unmistakable ways. Victor's summons sends shockwaves through the power structure, forcing players like Billy to either accelerate their plans or retreat entirely. Billy's plot, in turn, threatens to expose truths that Victor would rather keep buried. And Mariah's internal shift may place her at the crossroads of decisions that affect more than just her own life. She has always been closer to the emotional core of the Newman-Abbott orbit than she realizes, and once she stops underestimating her own influence, others may start paying closer attention. The tension lies in timing. Victor believes he's moving first. Billy believes he's already moved. Mariah doesn't believe she's playing the same game at all, and that may be what gives her the greatest advantage. While Victor and Billy focus on power and control, Mariah is redefining strength on her own terms. That kind of clarity can disrupt even the most carefully constructed schemes. What's coming next feels less like a single explosion and more like a controlled burn. Relationships will strain under unspoken truths. Alliances will shift without warning. And the people who think they're safest may be standing closest to the fire. Victor's summons is only the opening note. Billy's plot is the rising tension. Mariah's switch is the emotional crescendo that could change everything. The young and the restless isn't asking whether these moves will have consequences. It's asking who will survive them. The aftermath of Victor's summons doesn't end when the doors close or the voices drop. It lingers. It seeps into every corner of Genoa City like a low hum no one can quite escape. Those who answered the call leave with different interpretations of what just happened, but they all share the same unease. Victor didn't threaten. He didn't need to. The restraint itself was the message. He is watching. He is waiting. And he expects movement. Victor's next move isn't immediate retaliation. It's observation. He allows silence to do the work for him, knowing that people reveal more when they believe they're no longer being scrutinized. This is where Victor feels most powerful, sitting back as others scramble to anticipate his intentions. He knows fear makes people sloppy. It makes them talk. And it makes them betray one another without realizing they're doing it. Victor's confidence is rooted in history. He survived coups, betrayals, and outright war. In his mind, this moment is just another test of endurance. Billy, however, refuses to play by the old rules. Instead of reacting to Victor's summons with panic or defiance, Billy leans into patience. That alone is unsettling for anyone who's known him long enough. Billy's plot begins to take shape in conversations that feel casual but are anything but. He asks questions that seem harmless. He listens more than he speaks. And he files away details Victor would consider insignificant. Billy understands something now that he didn't before. Victor's empire doesn't crumble from a frontal assault. It erodes from within. There's a quiet danger in Billy's restraint. The more controlled he becomes, the harder he is to predict. People start to underestimate him again, mistaking calm for weakness. Billy lets them. He's learned that invisibility can be a weapon. Each step he takes is measured, each alliance carefully weighed. He knows that if Victor senses even a hint of what's coming, the counterattack will be brutal. So Billy moves like a shadow, trusting that timing will do what force never could. Mariah's gear switch continues to ripple outward in ways she doesn't fully anticipate. As she reclaims agency over her choices, the people around her begin to feel the shift. Some respond with relief, sensing that Mariah is finally standing on solid ground. Others feel threatened. A self-aware Mariah is harder to manipulate, harder to guilt, harder to push into roles she never volunteered for. She starts to speak with more certainty, not louder, but clearer. And clarity can be disruptive in a town built on ambiguity. Mariah's evolution isn't about becoming colder or more guarded. It's about becoming intentional. She starts asking herself why she says yes when she wants to say no, why she absorbs responsibility for problems that were never hers to solve. These questions don't just change her behavior. They change how others see her. And once that perception shifts, the balance of emotional power shifts with it. As Victor and Billy circle each other from opposite ends of the chessboard, Mariah unknowingly becomes a variable neither has fully accounted for. She's connected to people on both sides of the divide, not through strategy but through trust. And trust is a currency that Victor can't always buy and Billy can't always predict. Mariah's decisions may seem personal, even small, but in Genoa City, personal choices often carry political consequences. The tension escalates not through explosions but through proximity. Conversations happen a beat too long. Glances linger. Information travels just fast enough to cause damage but not fast enough to be traced. Victor senses resistance but can't yet identify its source. Billy senses opportunity but knows one misstep could expose everything. And Mariah senses that she's standing at a threshold, one choice away from a future that looks nothing like her past. What makes this chapter of The Young and the Restless so compelling is the absence of certainty. No one has complete control. Not Victor, despite his confidence. Not Billy, despite his planning. And not Mariah, despite her newfound clarity. Each is operating on belief more than proof, instinct more than assurance. That's where mistakes are born. And that's where breakthroughs happen. The storm isn't here yet, but the air has changed. Victor's summons has set events in motion that can't be undone. Billy's plot is gaining momentum, even if no one can see its full shape yet. And Mariah's switch in gears may prove to be the most unpredictable force of all. In Genoa City, change never announces itself with certainty. It whispers first. And those whispers are getting harder to ignore. The whispers grow louder as Genoa City adjusts to a new rhythm, one shaped by anticipation rather than reaction. Victor feels it before he can name it. There's a subtle resistance in the air, a hesitation where obedience used to be automatic. He tells himself it's temporary. It always is. Yet even Victor Newman can't ignore the instinct that something fundamental has shifted. His summons was meant to reset the board. Instead, it revealed how many pieces are already in motion. Victor begins applying pressure in quieter ways. A delayed approval here. A sudden demand for loyalty there. He frames it as routine business, but the intent is unmistakable. He's tightening the net, waiting to see who struggles. The problem is that pressure doesn't just expose weakness. It also forges resolve. And in Billy Abbott, Victor may have done the latter without realizing it. Billy's plot deepens with an almost unsettling calm. He stopped seeking validation for his decisions, which is perhaps the biggest sign that he's changed. Billy used to want to be seen as right. Now, he wants to be effective. He allows Victor's subtle power plays to pass without reaction, even when they sting. Every slight becomes data. Every insult becomes fuel. Billy understands that Victor's greatest vulnerability lies in his certainty that he can still dictate the pace. So Billy slows everything down, forcing Victor to wait, to guess, to wonder. In this waiting game, Billy starts to see the outline of an endgame. It doesn't involve a public takedown or a dramatic victory. It involves choice. Forcing Victor into a position where every option costs him something he values. Control, reputation, or legacy. Billy knows Victor fears irrelevance more than defeat. The trick is making Victor confront that fear without ever naming it aloud. Mariah, meanwhile, is stepping into a version of herself that feels both unfamiliar and deeply right. Her switch in gears brings a sense of emotional steadiness she's never fully trusted before. Instead of bracing for the next disaster, she allows herself to exist in the present. That presence changes her interactions in subtle but powerful ways. She listens without absorbing. She supports without sacrificing herself. And she starts to recognize when her empathy is being used as leverage. This clarity places Mariah at the center of conversations she once hovered at the edges of. People seek her out not because she's available, but because she's grounded. There's a quiet authority in that. And while Mariah isn't trying to influence outcomes, her perspective begins to shape them anyway. She asks questions others avoid. She notices emotional undercurrents others dismiss. In a town where secrets thrive on silence, Mariah's attentiveness becomes a threat. The lines between these stories begin to blur as shared connections tighten. Victor hears Mariah's name more often, usually in passing, usually accompanied by hesitation. He doesn't know why yet, only that awareness is spreading beyond his reach. Billy, too, starts to realize that Mariah's evolution could complicate his carefully constructed plan. Not because she would betray him, but because she might refuse to play along at all. Independence is unpredictable. The tension reaches a new plateau when Victor senses a challenge he can't isolate. There's no single adversary to confront, no obvious rebellion to crush. Instead, there's a collective shift in posture. People are still respectful. Still cautious. But they're no longer shrinking. Victor responds the only way he knows how, by escalating. And escalation, in this moment, may be exactly what Billy has been waiting for. As this chapter unfolds, the question isn't who will win. It's who will adapt. Victor has survived by imposing his will on the world around him. Billy is learning how to reshape the world without announcing his presence. Mariah is discovering that true strength doesn't require permission. Their paths are converging, not by design, but by consequence. The young and the restless thrives in these in-between moments, where certainty dissolves and possibility takes its place. Victor's authority, Billy's ambition, and Mariah's self-realization are no longer separate threads. They're strands of the same unraveling tapestry. And once a tapestry begins to unravel, no amount of force can restore it to its original design.
বাবা দাঁড়াও, একটা সুন্দর ভিডিও করছি আমি, সুন্দর ভিডিও। দাঁড়াও বাবা, আসো মাম্মা, একটু দাঁড়াও।